All right, what's going on, my friends? It's now 3 o'clock. Chad here. We start with the NFL. Aaron Rodgers has officially agreed to terms with the Pittsburgh Steelers and is expected in next week's minicamp. Rodgers is going to be 41 when the season begins. Pittsburgh will play at the New York Jets in week 1. Elsewhere, Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson has suffered a right shoulder injury. He's going to be out for an undetermined length of time. Game 1 of the NBA Finals tonight. Indiana Pacers and Oklahoma City Thunder tip-off at 5:30 on ABC. The Thunder are a 9.5-point favorite in Game 1. Pacers coach Rick Carlisle talked about the keys to the series.
It's simply going to come down to us being able to play our game at the best possible level. We're going to need to take care of the ball because these guys turn people over at a historic rate, and we're going to have to make some shots.
Oregon State Beavers will take on Florida State in the Corvallis Super Regional tomorrow. First pitch at 3, pregame at 2:30 on 1190 KX and 620 Rip City Radio. Bottom of the ninth in Seattle, Orioles lead the Mariners 4-3.
It's time for the Rip City Drive, brought to you by Goldberg Jones. Divorce for Men. Call 1-800-DIVORCE. Featuring the crazy and often irrational longtime Portland radio vet, Chad Dewing.
It's one thing I really admire about the NFL. I mean, if we were going into a Super Bowl and it was Packers against Steelers, you guys would be celebrating that. Those would be storied franchises. People wouldn't be talking about the fact that Pittsburgh is a small market. So it's been intentional from our standpoint to create a system, a collective bargaining agreement that allows more teams to compete.
Nugent Hopkins on the left, tap boards, under pressure, turns and gives it up. Beautiful pass. McDavid in front, one time score! Leon Draisaitl! 4-3, Edmonton!
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Chad Dewing starts now.
All right, you know the rule. We have Shacker plays Phil Collins. I've got to let it play a little bit. What's going on, my friends? Rip City Drive. I'm still getting used to being back in this chair after an extended period of time off, but I got to be honest with you, I feel refreshed. I really do. I feel refreshed. I haven't felt this good in a long time, just in the right mental space. I don't feel worn down from the extended basketball season. So I'm just happy to be here and do some good, honest radio. Looking forward to the show today. You can reach out to me and jump on board 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. You can find me on social at Chad in Rip City. At Chad in Rip City. I've just been consumed by the Aaron Rodgers news and the haymakers that Elon and Trump are throwing back and forth to one another on social media. A lot of craziness going on right now. But reach out to me, 503-248-0620. Chris Burkhardt, I texted him this morning and said, hey, I miss you. You should come in studio today. And he said yes. So Chris Burkhardt's going to join me in studio at 5, and we'll talk some football, but we'll also get his thoughts on the upcoming NBA draft, which is 3 weeks away. Is today Thursday? Yeah, so I think we're, right at the 3-week mark or just under that from the NBA draft. The Trailblazers will have pick number 11, and this, of course, is what we would expect to be a very active offseason for the Trailblazers. Chris Burkhardt will join me in studio at 5. Celeste Trapp is going to join me in studio again today. She'll be here just after 4. We'll talk with her at 4:20, and we'll focus in on what women want. I think we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition today, different ways you can take care of yourself as you get older, which is one of my favorite topics. Anything else you want to talk about is fine by me. NBA Finals going to kick off tonight. Pacers and Thunder. I think the Thunder are going to win the series. I hope I'm wrong. I think it could be a very short series, like 5 games. I hope I'm wrong. But the one thing you never want to do in the NBA is underestimate or count out Rick Carlisle. That's a darn good basketball coach. And so far, his team has really been impressive throughout the start of the postseason. I mean, really, in the playoffs, these have been the 2 best teams. The Thunder, obviously, throughout the regular season, they were historic in terms of point differential, 68 wins. They're dominant on both ends of the floor. But, the way the Pacers have played ever since the playoffs kicked off, their pace, their offensive execution, they're great with their ball security. They just do a lot of things really well. And Tyrese Halliburton's been a lot of fun to watch. So the series is going to kick off tonight. The Thunder are a massive favorite in game 1, 9.5 points, 9.5. And they're also a prohibitive favorite in the series. Going to be critical for the Pacers to get one of the first 2. If that can happen, if they can get a split in the first couple of games in Oklahoma City, we could be well on our way to a good series. And, I got to be honest with you, I think with the way that these NBA playoffs have transpired, and I've mentioned this before, that I feel rejuvenated as a basketball fan based on the postseason this year. We've had a lot of great games. There's been some very compelling series. And I just feel like with the playoffs that we've had up to this point, that we deserve a very compelling NBA Finals to cap off the playoff run the right way. It would be very anticlimactic to have Oklahoma City run out there and dominate the series and win it in 5 games. I mean, which is more likely, 7-game series or an Oklahoma City sweep? I mean, probably based on numbers, it's an Oklahoma City sweep. They're historic. Their point differential, the best in NBA history. They have 68 wins on the season. All the indicators would point to championship team. I think I'm going to be pulling for the Pacers because I like Rick Carlisle, but I respect the way the Thunder play. And I love guys on the floor who play both ways. The Thunder have a number of guys who are willing to defend. I mean, what you're looking at now with the NBA and the new restraints with the salary cap, you better find guys that can play 2 ways. The days of paying a guy who is really good on offense but can't play a lick of D, big-time cash to where you're strapped, those days are over. I'm not investing ridiculous dollars into one-way players. I want 2-way guys. That's part of the reason why I'm excited about the Trailblazers' young roster is because they have multiple guys who can play both ways, who are willing defenders. And I've always been a big fan of 2-way players. That's just how I roll. All right, the big news, of course, is that we finally got word that Aaron Rodgers has agreed to terms with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he will be a part of next week's minicamp. This is really not a surprise. Aaron Rodgers, I really believe this, and I talked about this at the end of the football season last year. I didn't think he was going to retire. I think he didn't consider it for a moment. I think the plan all along was to come back and play. One, because he can still play. I think he had 29 touchdowns, 11 picks last year for the Jets, who are a disaster. His biggest issue was just selecting a franchise that's a known pile of garbage and thinking he could turn it around there. That was a mistake. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the exact opposite, the antithesis of the Jets. The Steelers, from the beginning of time, have been and continue to be one of the best-run franchises in all of sports. They do things the right way. They draft well. They develop. They don't overpay guys as they age. And I like their head coach, Mike Tomlin, who is very successful. He wins games. I think this is going to work. And I know there's a lot of people out there who don't like Aaron Rodgers for a variety of reasons. His political takes, his arrogance. There's a lot of reasons why you could turn your nose up to Aaron Rodgers. I get it. I have an ability to separate the personal from the professional when it comes to my athletes or my entertainers. Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. He's one of the best I've ever seen. He's still got above average arm talent. But the reason why I think it's going to work is very simple. The Steelers, they can run the football and they play defense. That much we do know. What they've been missing at quarterback for quite some time is a guy, and again, this is something Rodgers can do. he doesn't have to be MVP Rodgers from a couple of years ago. I think the most important thing that they need from Rodgers is someone who can provide leadership in the huddle, someone who can get them in the right play or audible to make sure they're in the right play. Use your snap count to your advantage, and then avoid the negative plays. And the one thing Rodgers is really good at is getting rid of the football, not holding out of the football and taking sacks. He avoids the negative plays, and he limits turnovers. And when you do those things, when you're a defensive-minded football team that can run the ball, you're going to put your team in a position to win games. And I think that's what it comes down to for Aaron Rodgers. He can still play, and we saw flashes of brilliance last year, particularly during the second half of the season with the Jets. But I think that's what we're going to see from Rodgers. The Steelers are going to run the ball. He's going to provide leadership with his experience. He'll avoid the negative plays. He'll avoid the turnovers. And they'll utilize play action to put him in a position to do what he does best. And I think that's how it's going to work. And really, for the Steelers, I like the move because in that division, if you're looking up at the rest of the teams in the division, and you know you got to face Joe Burrow, second best quarterback in the NFL behind Patrick Mahomes, or you've got Lamar Jackson, who's a freak, you better have some potency at quarterback, or you can forget about being a part of the postseason. So I'll be pulling for Rodgers because I just like good quarterback play. I've been watching football for a long time, as many of you have. The one thing I know about football is if you have good quarterbacks playing the game, it's compelling. If you have crappy quarterbacks on the field, it's not compelling at all. It's horrible. Bad quarterback play equals unwatchable football. And we need as many good ones out there on the field as we can get. The reason why Rodgers waited until now, I don't think this was a drama play by Rodgers where he was looking for attention. I think he learned from last year's experience with the Jets where he signed early and then he didn't show up for the OTAs, and then his teammates and his coaches were being asked about him. And then it was the head coach, Robert Saleh, who said, yeah, he's not here. It's not excused. You know, it was just an awkward situation. So I think this time around, Rodgers and the Steelers had an understanding that, hey, wait until the OTAs pass, then I'll sign, and then I'll be a part of the minicamp. And the reason why he waited to sign is so that they don't get all the questions about where he's at and why he's not with the team and, you know, all the sideshow drama. So he was able to avoid that. Now he signs, and we don't have details on the contract yet. Those should be coming real soon. But now he can join the team. He had a chance to enjoy his offseason and do some of the things that he wanted to do. And now he can buckle up and get ready for a brand new football season. The other thing that's cool, I love how the NFL, they always seem to schedule the proper games at the right time. The Steelers are going to open up the season at the Jets. Aaron Rodgers going up against the Jets. The NFL is genius at giving us drama throughout the season, and I'll be tuned in for that football game. All right. Hey, I appreciate your time. 503-248-0620, the telephone number. Chad Doing here. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Chris Burkhart will join me in studio at 5. All right, assuming he can stay healthy, it's going to be fun to see Rodgers go up against Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, twice during the course of the football season. I love good rivalries. I like good matchups, and I can't wait to see how things play out in Pittsburgh. I think Aaron Rodgers will fit nicely because he's smart. He'll protect the football, and he'll avoid the negative plays. And when you can do that with a team that plays defense and you can run the football, you'll be in a position to win a lot of football games. I mean, the Steelers have proven that over the course of time. And with competent intelligence at quarterback, they should be able to get the job done. Not a surprise, though. I mean, when the Steelers elected to not draft a big-time quarterback and they had Mason Rudolph sitting on the roster, it was pretty clear that they knew something that just hadn't been made public yet, that there was an agreement in place with Aaron Rodgers, and they waited. And Aaron Rodgers waited to avoid the questions, to make sure his teammates didn't get peppered with questions, and then you move on. And now he'll be at minicamp next week and start preparing for a brand new football season. But I'm excited to see what he can do a year removed, from coming back from that Achilles tear. It's pretty amazing he's able to come back and play at that age. He's going to be 41 to start the season. I think he'll be 42 before the end of the year. But he showed flashes of what he's still capable of. And we've seen quarterbacks, you know how it works for quarterbacks. It's pretty simple, right? You don't have to be at your best physically or at the top of your game physically to be able to be an effective quarterback. Usually how it works is for quarterbacks, they come into the league and they rely upon their arm strength, their athleticism, because they're trying to learn the game, understand defenses. The offenses in the league are so complex. Like, it takes time to really get that stuff to sink in. And then what happens is that after about 4 or 5 years in the league, everything starts to click mentally, where you see things, you anticipate things, and you understand what you're looking at when you're on the field. Aaron Rodgers, I think I've shared this story before. I forgot the name of the coach, but early on in Green Bay, the defensive line coach is who worked with Rodgers on recognition. And so what Aaron Rodgers learned is that he can now step up to the line of scrimmage, look at the defensive front, and based on where their position and their alignment, it allows him to have his back to the line of scrimmage after he snaps the football, because he knows based on the front where the guys in the secondary are going to be. That type of, recognition is critical. So what happens with quarterbacks is, so they come in, they rely on the athleticism. Then 4 to 5, 6 years down the road, the game starts to slow down because mentally they're understanding the game better. They're reading defenses, they're anticipating, and they're allowing their mind to help them get the football where it needs to go. And that's how you have to play the game. You got to anticipate. A lot of those are anticipatory. You've got to know where the defenses are going to be. If you get up to the line of scrimmage and you've got a bad play call, you've got to be able to audible out of that and get your team in the right place so you can have some success. But most importantly, avoid the big negative play. Like, there's so much going on. Well, the good thing is with Rodgers or guys at that level, and we even saw with Tom Brady towards the end of his career, even in Tampa, not the same physically, but because they have such a great understanding of NFL defenses, because they've seen everything and they've gone up against the best for years, they're able to manage the game mentally. And even though they don't have what they used to have physically, because they get rid of the football quick and they know where to go with the ball and they understand where the defense is and what they're trying to accomplish, they're able to have success. So I would expect the same from Aaron Rodgers. The smarts allowing him to continue to play at this stage of his career, because he's going to get rid of the football and put it in the right place. And there you have it. I like the move for Pittsburgh, because what else were they going to do? In a division with Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, you need to have answers at quarterback. And I think Aaron Rodgers has a chance to be really good for them this year. And it'll be interesting to see that relationship between he and Mike Tomlin and how that continues to play out and develop over the course of the season. So there you have it. Now, the NBA Finals is going to kick off tonight. And this is not a series that's going to get a lot of national headlines, because most people throughout the course of the season didn't pay attention to the Indiana Pacers. And Oklahoma City, while they're the best team in the NBA and were from start until finish throughout the course of the regular season, they're Oklahoma City. and they have great players, but they don't have household names. So I don't expect this to be a ratings bonanza for the NBA, but it does have the potential to be a really good series. And Rick Carlisle was asked about some of the keys to this series for the Pacers.
It's simply going to come down to us being able to play our game at the best possible level. We're going to need to take care of the ball because these guys turn people over at a historic rate, and we're going to have to make some shots.
Yeah, that's what it's going to come down to. They're going to have to make some shots. And I just can't wait to see them play. And really, the key is for Indiana, they just got to continue to protect the basketball. They've been very good throughout the postseason, protecting the basketball, running their offense. They do so at an incredible pace. And if they can do that, protect the ball, make shots, with their pace, they can keep some level of pressure on Oklahoma City. But the difficulty with Oklahoma City is that when they're out there on the floor, they don't have weaknesses to attack. They don't have matchup disadvantages because they have so many great two-way players. And I just love watching them play. I thought Brad Bakken made a great point a couple of days ago when he compared them to the 2015 Warriors. The only negative that I could get anyone to tell me about the Thunder this year going into the postseason was, well, they haven't done it before. They don't have the experience. They haven't won a championship. They've got to prove that they can do it. And I understand that because that's the way I grew up. There were teams that had to go through the refining fire to get over the hump and win a championship. But what I saw with the Warriors, those same concerns were there back in 2015 when Steph Curry won his first. They hadn't done it before. They hadn't been there. They didn't have the experience. Would they be able to find a way to get it done? And there are some similarities there because you've got Steph Curry, who was a first-time MVP that season. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just won his first MVP. You've got multiple great two-way players, and there's a similar player on both teams. Draymond Green, who was that defensive quarterback for the Warriors, and Lou Dort. And I've got to continue to give credit to Chet Holmgren. I thought he was going to be a complete bum coming out of Gonzaga. A big white guy, American-born white guy with slow feet. And a guy who was really skinny. I just didn't think it was going to work, and I've been wrong about him. And he's fun to watch. His shot blocking, his anticipation. He's got the foot speed to be able to get out and contest at the three-point line. He can make shots, and he's been really good for them. And that combination of Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein, they create a lot of problems, especially on the offensive glass. Their shot blocking, their length. They make you think twice before you take the ball into the teeth of the defense because you might get rejected. So I like the way that they play. And I think Jalen Williams has done a heck of a job of being, that number two next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But I love watching Shai play because he plays his own pace. It's really hard to speed him up, and he's so good at getting to his spots. And he gets defenders off balance constantly. Gets to his spots, can make shots, can hit the three. He's really good off the bounce, and he's a good playmaker for his teammates. He does a lot of good things out there. And he's been a lot of fun to watch. And I like the way he handles his business. They're well-coached, and they're just a well-oiled machine, both ends of the floor. And for the Pacers, they've got Tyrese Halliburton, who I do not believe is a superstar. I think he's a really good player. He's on the verge of, reaching stardom, but I don't think he's that type of player. And then they've surrounded him with a lot of really good guys, really good players, a deep basketball team. That's one thing that's going to be nice about the finals. We saw the Knicks start to get fatigued because they're not as deep, but both these teams in the finals, the Pacers and Thunder, are deep basketball teams. And I think that's going to make for compelling basketball because, both teams will be able to utilize different guys, keep their players fresh. And if this series it gets extended, it could make for, I'd love to see it get to 6 or 7 games to see how things shake out. But the Thunder have been very impressive throughout the regular season and postseason. So I expect them to win. But I'll be pulling for the Pacers. Big fan of Rick Carlisle. And I think he's done a heck of a job with this team. Yeah, he lets them play free. He lets them play loose. They want to attack, and they play at a very frantic pace, and yet they protect the basketball. So, we'll see how things continue to shake out, but that's where we have it. And with the Thunder, if they win the championship this year, they may be in a window to where they can, win 2 or 3 titles with the roster that they have. And, of course, they've got so much draft capital that they're going to be able to continue to retool the team as they make decisions about different guys on the roster. But I like the addition of Caruso. Going back to that comparison with the 2015 Warriors, Andre Iguodala was moved to the bench to become the captain of the second unit because Draymond Green was inserted into the starting lineup by Steve Kerr. It turned out to be the proper decision, but the Thunder went out and got Caruso. And Caruso has been terrific. Good defender. He's got experience. He's got confidence. He's been a shot maker. He's just a terrific player. And I think I said, did I say David Caruso again? Yeah, this is going to be a lifelong battle for me. But for some reason, when I hear the name Caruso, I think of David Caruso, the actor. But Alex Caruso plays for the Thunder, and David Caruso is the actor. So if you hear me say David Caruso, you may think actor, but what I really mean is the guy that plays for the Thunder. But yes, David Caruso. Known most for his work on NYPD Blue and CSI Miami. Alex Caruso, known for his play with the Lakers, the Bulls, and now the Oklahoma City Thunder. But I like experienced guys like that who can come in, play defense, make shots, be a playmaker. He's been a terrific ad. They've made some very good decisions. Hartenstein and Caruso have been great. And I wasn't necessarily a big fan of them getting rid of Josh Giddey. I like Josh Giddey's game a lot. I think he's great. Caruso has been fabulous. Hartenstein's been great. So there you have it. I think the Thunder win the series, probably in 5 games, but I'm pulling for a 6 or 7 game series because I want the most compelling basketball. That's really what I'm looking for in sports. I want the best story. I want the most compelling action, right? Same thing with the Stanley Cup Finals with Florida and Edmonton. I want a 7-game series. When it comes to the NFL playoffs and the Super Bowl, I want, tight, competitive, compelling matchups. Not what we got in the Super Bowl, which is a blowout with the Eagles, punching the Chiefs in the face. I don't want to watch that kind of stuff. Are you kidding me? All right. You can reach out to me, 503-248-0620. Chris Burkhardt is going to join me in studio to talk sports coming up at 5:20. And then Celeste Trapp is going to stop by and be in studio at 4:20. You can reach out 503-248-0620. Don't forget, tomorrow, Oregon State, the Beavers will kick off the Super Regional down in Corvallis. They're going to take on Florida State. That game has a first pitch of 3 o'clock. The pregame's at 2:30. We're going to carry it on 1190 KEX and right here on 620 Rip City Radio. And if you haven't checked out any of the playoffs yet in baseball, it's terrific. And I'm really big on the Women's College World Series as well. And it was a great game last night with Texas Tech and Texas. And they're going to play game 2 of that series tonight. If the Longhorns win, they will win the national championship. If Tech wins, they're going to force a game 3, a decisive game 3 to see who wins the championship there. But Oregon State, man, they've just been putting up the runs. I mean, their bats are on fire right now. So they've got a legit chance to get to Omaha, and then we'll see how things shake out from there. But that game is tomorrow, first pitch at 3 with the pregame Mike Parker at 2:30. Big week for me, and I would imagine for a lot of you parents out there. My daughter's final day of school is tomorrow as she wraps up her freshman year in high school, which is pretty crazy. So we got that going on. I've been trying to get out to watch the last 3 nights. I've been trying to get out and find time to go check Karate Kid Legends. It hasn't worked for me. So I'm like, you know what? Forget it. I'll just wait until Kaylee's done with school, and then I'll be able to go and check the movie. But I'm trying to get there to watch it. What did I start watching last night? Oh, I watched the first 1.5 episodes. I forgot the name of it, but it's like The Hunt for Bin Laden, little documentary on Netflix. I'll probably finish watching it tonight. But the first 1.5 episodes were terrific. I'm totally into documentaries. I like watching those. I like checking them out. But that's what I'm on right now. But I want to get out to see Karate Kid Legends. The 2 movies that I know that I have to go to the theater for this summer. Karate Kid Legends. Have you seen it yet, Shacker?
No, I have not seen it yet.
The people that I trust say it's really good.
I've heard the reviews. I think I read too many reviews. I regret reading them.
Yeah, the reviews that I watched and read they were terrible. They made it sound like the movie was not good. But how many times have you read reviews that were negative and you go to see the movie, you're like, dude, that was awesome. Happens all the time.
Yeah, I don't care about reviews. I don't care about Oscar nominations and who wins the trophies. That doesn't matter to me because I have my own opinion, and I don't care about other people's opinions.
I just want to be entertained. I heard the pacing of the movie is really good, so I can't wait to check it out. So I'll do that here in the next couple of nights. I did go to the dentist yesterday. I'm still getting used to my bite. I had to get a couple of fillings, and it's like I think they got it right, but I'm not sure yet. My mouth feels weird. You ever had that experience? But I'll tell you, I got to tell you what you got to do. First off, they solved the issue. No more dude hygienist. The hygienist or the assistant was a sweetheart. And because I get real nervous when I go to the dentist. Like, I'm not down.
You don't want a man's fingers in your mouth?
No, I don't. I don't like being at the dentist. I don't like laying back in the chair. I'm not comfortable with people doing things with my mouth. Pain in your mouth, tooth pain or anything like that. Like, I'm not okay with it. And it probably is a result from the dry socket I got after I had my wisdom teeth pulled out. That was very painful. But I have a certain anxiety level when I go to the dentist. And so what I've discovered that works for me is the nitrous oxide. And so I got there yesterday. I was like, I need to request the nitrous. And they're like, well, it's going to be an extra fee. I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't care. So I think it was like an extra $87. It is quite honestly the best $87 I have ever spent. And then I have a friend that I went to school with that's a dentist now. And we were talking about this once, I think on the golf course. But he was like, when they first hook you up to the nitrous, they're going to have it turned down on a fairly low level. I don't know what the limit is, but there's a certain maximum they can get to. He goes, just keep telling them you're not feeling a darn thing until you're higher than a kite. And so that's what I did. The gal turned on the nitrous, and I was breathing through my nose. They hook that mask over your grill, and you got the nitrous on. And so I'm breathing it, and I start to feel it. But she's like, can you feel the nitrous yet? And I'm like, no, I don't feel a thing. And so I just keep telling her that until she cranks it up to the max, and I'm higher than a kite, and I'm totally relaxed. And it's weird, but the nitrous, I know it doesn't work for everybody, but for me, it works perfectly. And it's the only time when I'm at the dentist and I've got the nitrous on where every single thought that I have is positive. Like, everything is euphoric. I'm happy. All my thoughts are positive. I giggle at some of the comments by the dentist and the assistant, and it ends up being a really good time for me until they take the nitrous off and you return to normal, and then you realize that one side of your face feels like it's, 3 times its normal size as you wait for the numbness to wear off. But it turned out to be a good experience. I'm telling you, nitrous is where it's at. I was trying to think of, like, would they get mad if I just took a tank of that home with me? Because it'd be great to have that next to my bed. Like, if I just feel a little anxiety, just strap on the nitrous and just let that stuff go to work. And nice work with the music here. This is CSI Miami, right?
Yeah, I always catch reruns of CSI Miami on Channel 2.2 before Blazer games.
All right, I've got to work really hard. It's not David Caruso who plays for the Thunder. It's Alex Caruso. All the CSI shows I enjoy all of them. They're good. They're now in, like, syndication, and they reruns all the time.
I was hooked on the original CSI, but then they kept changing the main actor.
Yeah, that's not good.
And they brought in Ted Danson. By then, I wasn't watching anymore.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. You can reach out 503-248-0620. You'll find me on social at Chad and Rip City. NBA Finals tips off at 5:30. Oregon State and Florida State in the Super Regional down in Corvallis tomorrow. Pregame at 2:30, first pitch at 3. That's tomorrow. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. Boy, nice work, Shacker. Love this song. Steve Winwood, The Finer Things. I haven't heard this song in a long time. It's so good. Now, did you say you've seen Winwood in concert before?
No, it was one of those shows that got canceled during the pandemic. He was going to play in Portland and then never made it.
Well, that sucks. I haven't had a chance to see him, but I've always been a big fan. Yeah, this is nice. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Now, Shacker, you live out there in Oregon City or in the Clackamas area, excuse me. But you said the traffic. Well, what's going on with the traffic out there? They're doing construction work or what's up?
Well, there is construction, but there was an accident so bad on Highway 213 that it's closed, creating a massive backup on 205.
Wow. And so you checked the drive from here to your crib. How long did it say right now?
Yeah, what's normally a 30-minute drive is now an hour 42.
How do you normally get back home? Do you head south on I-5 to 205 and go the long way around?
Yeah, I take all the freeways, and I use GPS to see if there's ever shortcuts. So sometimes I've driven through, like, side roads in West Lynn if it's quicker.
Yeah, well, Waze is great at giving you different routes if you're driving through traffic. I had that experience when I went to the dentist yesterday. You know, I'm not used to driving in the morning because I come into the station a little bit later. So my appointment was at 8 o'clock. And the last time, I live up in North Vancouver. And so the last time I went to the dentist, it's right there on like 63rd and Andreessen. So I took 205. But one of the intersections that I try to avoid, like the plague, is, that Paddon Parkway where you exit off and you've got like, I don't know what that is, like Paddon and Andreessen. It's one of the busiest intersections in town. It's awful. So this time when I went to get my fillings, I was like, well, forget that. I'll just take I-5, exit off into Hazeldale, and take 63rd down and go on the back way. But the problem is, because there was a little bit of mist and we hadn't had rain in a while, for some reason, traffic was a total disaster yesterday. And I-5 was backed up into Hazeldale. And so I was trying to think of, like, ways I could get crazy with it to make sure I was on time for my appointment, which I was not. It was horrible. Driving in the morning and getting stuck in traffic every day, it's not cool. And I feel my heart goes out to everyone that's got to deal with mad traffic. Fortunately, for a lot of people, from the pandemic, one of the good things that came from the pandemic, one, golf courses now making a lot of cash, which is good. The other thing is that companies realize that, maybe we don't need to be keeping an eye on every employee inside of the building at all times and they can work from home and be more productive. So a lot of people just work from home now. I mean, heck, most of the people in our building do. Sometimes you walk through the office floor and it's like a ghost town. That's because people are working from home. They can be more productive when they're not wasting like 2 hours in their car. The problem is with me is like I can work from home, but I hate it. Too many distractions. I don't have a soundproof room. Like I don't have a home studio, which would be dope, by the way, but I don't. So it sounds pitchy in my ears. And then Puppy Shots will be barking during the middle of a segment because he doesn't care what I'm doing. He cares about himself. And then sometimes you have to like navigate like issues with your kids during your commercial break. And then I realized like I go to work to get away from them. So why not just keep doing that? But mostly because I like being inside of a studio. But for those people that get to work from home, man, props to you. The traffic's awful. It's just awful. And what really ticks me off is like when you drive somewhere, like on a holiday when there's no one on the road, and you realize how short of a drive it is from like one end of town to the other, it just makes you angry when you realize how bad the traffic is now. Oh, well, what can you do? What can you do? 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Or you can hit me up on social at Chad and Rip City. Chris Burkhart going to be in studio at 5 o'clock, and we'll talk NBA draft. We'll get his take on the finals coming up. Game 1 tonight at 5:30. And I want to get his thoughts on the new NCAA 26. The new football game is getting ready to come out, and the videos they've been posting on social media look amazing. Yeah. I mean, I had a thought the other day, like I'm almost 50. I'm going to turn 50 in August. And is it okay for me to be at that age and be this excited about a video game? I don't really have the answer to that, but I'm really excited about the video game. That football game that I got last year, NCAA 25 with the return, it's it's unbelievable. I just can't believe how good the football game is. And, I grew up in the '80s, so I frequented arcades. The technology and the graphics have come a long ways. That's all.
Does the game make you a better fan of college football? Like you play other teams, you learn who the players are,
Yeah.
basically playing the video game.
Yeah, you do. You do because, the players are paid for it now, so they use they got their names. And it's the same reason why I like to play fantasy football or be a part of those type of leagues is because I learn more because I'm focused on a variety of different teams of players, trying to keep up with the stats and everything, that you just learn more about the sport.
So it helps you out with your show, which is your work, which makes that game a tax write-off.
That's true. That it's 100% true. It sounds cheesy, but that is 100% true. And so I do that. And what I have done, I think I've mentioned this before, what I'll do or what I found that works for me, like if I want to get more involved in a particular sport, instead of focusing on everything, I just pick one team to follow and watch all of their games and read up on them. And then by doing that, I naturally learn more about other teams as well. I've done that with softball, with Oklahoma being dominant. I've enjoyed that. I've done it with college football. Obviously, I cover Oregon and Oregon State, but by really getting in on Arizona State and paying attention to them and getting into their games and going to see them live, then I pick up on different conferences. So I enjoy that process. Now, with the NFL, I watch all the teams because I love the NFL so much, but, the Broncos are my primary focus. But what I try to do now is I'll always watch the Bronco game, but I like to have different screens where I can pay attention to the other big games that are going on. And then Shacker turned me on to the, I think you get it through what is NFL.com what you go through for those quick replays, like the 30-minute versions.
Yeah, the NFL Plus.
Yeah, NFL Plus is great because what you can do with NFL Plus, after the games are played, they repackage them in 30-minute games. They cut out all the dead time, all the commercials. So it's like when you turn on the game through NFL Plus, it's just play, 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 play. So I use that because it allows me to go through and I can watch multiple games in a very short period of time. Or if there's a game that you need to go back on because there was a couple of key stretches, you can find it real quick and be able to watch through it. I love that kind of stuff. I think that's nice. They do the same thing like YouTube. That's why I was so happy when YouTube got the NFL ticket because, their platform is so user-friendly. And especially with the mobile, it works so well. So, I can be on the go or be standing in line somewhere or be shopping and be watching a game at the same time right there from my phone, which is nice. All right, Rip City Drive. You can reach out to me, 503-248-0620. You can find me on social at Chad and Rip City. Celeste Trapp in studio at 4:20. Chris Burkhardt going to stop by at 5. All right, what's going on? It's 4 o'clock. Chad here. Thanks for your time, my friends. Aaron Rodgers officially agreed to terms with the Pittsburgh Steelers and is expected to be at next week's minicamp. Rodgers will be 41 when the season begins. Pittsburgh's going to play at the Jets week 1. Elsewhere, Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson has suffered a right shoulder injury, and he'll be out for an undetermined length of time. Game 1 of the NBA Finals tonight, Pacers and Oklahoma City Thunder. Tip-off at 5:30 on ABC. The Thunder are a 9.5-point favorite in Game 1. Pacers coach Rick Carlisle on the series.
It's simply going to come down to us being able to play our game at the best possible level. We're going to need to take care of the ball because these guys turn people over at a historic rate, and we're going to have to make some shots.
Oregon State will meet Florida State in the Corvallis Super Regional tomorrow. First pitch at 3, pregame at 2:30 on 1190 KX and right here on 620 Rip City Radio. We've got more of the Rip City Drive with Chad doing coming at you right now. Just a quick baseball question for you. Why on earth does Dave Roberts continue to roll Michael Conforto out there on the diamond? It's an unbelievable stat, but he just snapped an 0 for 30 streak with runners in scoring position. His first hit with a runner in scoring position since March. And yet Dave Roberts continues to roll him out there. Is Conforto his illegitimate son, or does Conforto have some type of dirt on manager Roberts? Like, what's going on there? Because when I was down there for the 4 games I saw, 3 against the Angels, 1 against the Diamondbacks, Conforto was a complete disaster. I don't understand. But the streak's over. His first hit with runners in scoring position since March today. Good job, Conforto. It's funny, though. Like, sometimes you see that in sports where it feels like, in baseball, maybe a manager or a basketball coach, like they have their projects, like they're, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like that special kid that you feel like, hey, if I just give them a little more time or a little more work or a little more instruction that, that they can blossom. So I feel like Dave Roberts is taking on Conforto as a project. But 0 for 30, it's like, oh my gosh. I hate that when you're watching a game and when someone comes up to the plate and you're like, they're going to strike out. They have no chance of coming through in the clutch. And I cannot imagine the pressure you must feel when you're going through a slump like that. When you step up to the plate, like the only thing going on in your mind is this is going to go wrong. It's the same way when you're playing golf and, when you lose your feels and you're thinking too much. And when you step over the ball, you're like, I really don't know what's going to happen right now. I hate that feeling. I hate the feeling. And, I was thinking about that today when I was out there on the course. Like, I love the game. And today was probably my best ball striking day of the season thus far. And so it's one of those days where I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just walking up. It was one of the most relaxed mornings I've ever had in the golf course. Walk up, assess the situation, swing the club, and move on. It was great. But the weird thing about the game is that I know that tomorrow when I show up at the course, that something could feel different. And so that's always the process. You're always wondering, like, am I going to lose my feels? Is it going to be the same? Like, I'm always gripping about that, and I hate that. But that's part of the game. I would imagine hitting a baseball is kind of the same way. When you go into a slump, you probably feel like you can't see anything or pick up on any pitch, and you have no idea what's going on. But then there's times where you're not thinking about it at all. You're getting up there, and every time you swing the bat, it's like pure contact. Hitting a baseball, I don't know how they do it, frankly. I was talking to Travis Demers about that, I think last night. I was wondering, like, I was talking with Dwight over the weekend when I was playing in that golf tournament with his wife. Oregon State, like, you just watch them, like, they have no idea how to hit a curveball. Like, they're just up there probably looking for fastballs, but the off-speed stuff, I mean, they're just getting ripped. And it's like, what's going on here? And what Trav was telling me is that, the jump, when you go from like high school to college, in terms of the pitching, the pitchers that you face and the stuff that they have, like it's not even comparable. So when you get to the, you go from high school to college, the movement on the curveballs, it's just a different ball game. And so it takes a period of time to adjust and be able to figure that out. But I have no idea. I just know hitting a golf ball is tough. But I was happy this morning because, I had a great warm up. I felt good, right? Like really good. And I had I worked out yesterday, so my body was a little bit sore, but I felt good. Had a great warm up. And then on the first tee, I hit a wayward tee shot, and it like rammed into the trees on the right side of the tee box. And I walked up there, and my ball was gone. It hit the trees so hard that it probably ricocheted all the way to Washougal. And so I had to re-tee, and so I'm hitting 3 off the tee on hole number 1. And not the way you want to start your morning. Let's just put it that way. And I ended up with a triple bogey on hole 1 this morning. But this is what I love most about golf. Just walking through the process, not getting frustrated, and just playing your game. And I still broke 80. I finished with a 79. So after hole number 1, taking a triple, I was able to manage it. And, I was +4 the rest of the way. So I got a 79 after a triple bogey on hole 1. I do not recommend a triple bogey on hole 1 for your mental health. It's not the best. But that's one of the things my coach has been, working with me on. Is just, mentally, just not thinking ahead or getting too frustrated. Just, hey, trust your work, trust your practice, trust your swing, and get up there, and you got to let that go and move on, and then get ready for the next shot. But I think I last year when I was playing in Colorado, I may have shared this story, but it changed the way that I approached the game. So I was playing with this young gal. I got paired up. I was playing at Riverdale in just outside of Denver. It's one of my favorite courses. It's they have 2 different courses. I think one is called the Dunes and the other one's called the Knolls. But it's a local course. It's municipal course, but great condition. And playing golf in Colorado is nice because the ball soars, like it flies through the air. I just wish I could play golf there all the time because of the way the ball flies. It's unreal. But anyways, I got paired up. I was playing with my buddy Josh. And we got paired up with this with 2 other people, a dude and then this younger gal. And I didn't know how old she was when we, first met, but my guess was like, probably 19 or 20, somewhere in that area. But after I saw her take like 2 swings, and I knew right away that she was, that she played competitively. I didn't know where or what she was doing, but she was a competitive player. And so we got to talking throughout the round, and she was in some type of LPGA school. So she was a legit golfer. But the biggest thing I noticed is that her approach, and what I loved just by observing her throughout the course of the round, all 18 holes, the way her routine and her approach was the same from start until finish. And the reaction after a great shot or a bad shot or a shot in between was all the same. No emotion, no reaction, no frustration. Just continuing to breathe, get up, and continue to go through the process. And I saw that, and I was like, okay, that's how I want to be. And so I took that, and I've tried to apply the same thing. And no need to get frustrated. Just, just like in anything else, you're going to have, you're going to hit bad shots. I love listening to Gary Player. Gary Player is like one of the coolest dudes on the planet, and he probably still does like 1,000 sit-ups every morning. But that guy's super cool. But his approach is the same way. He's like, dude, it's golf. He's like, I hit more than 1 bad shot every round I play. Bad shots are a part of the game. Just like in hoops, right? You're going to have nights where you're going to be off, where you're going to shoot 12 of 33. You have one of those classic Kobe nights where you're putting up bricks, but you continue to trust the practice and go through the process. And I like that. And it's kind of like the way Shea Gilgeous-Alexander plays. I don't see him get really frustrated out there. The only time I see him get frustrated is when he's out there headhunting for a call. That's the only negative thing I can say about Shea. And it always goes back to what Kobe said. It's like when he was talking about, I think, Manu Ginobili or someone who was flopping. He's like, where are your balls at? It's the same thing. The 3 biggest violators, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Brunson, and that dude that plays for Atlanta with the bad hair, Trae Young, the former Oklahoma Sooner. They're the dudes that hunt for fouls. They complain about foul calls they get. They complain about the foul calls they don't get. And they're always trying to do tricky, like underhanded, like just conniving stuff to get foul calls. I don't like that. They're trying to manipulate the officials to get calls. And I sat next to an official on an airplane once, and I told him that I would not reveal his name, but I was peppering him with questions. But I asked him, I said, like, what's the most difficult part of your job? And he said, now he goes, it's being able to tell when the contact is real, especially on 3-point shots, with all the flopping, because guys are like really good actors at making it look like they got hit, but in reality, no one touched them. I mean, that stuff drives me crazy. We see LeBron do that all the time. Someone will come by, he'll get burned, and then he falls down like he got sniped. But the reason why these guys do it is because it works. Because these officials are dum-dums, and they get tricked into, blowing the whistle. That stuff drives me crazy. So I was like, come on, Shea, you're too good. You're the MVP. You're a phenomenal player. You don't need to lower yourself to that level to try and trick the officials into getting more foul calls. Just use your athleticism and your ability. No one can stop you off the bounce anyways. And they're going to reach, you're going to get the foul call. But don't try to trick dudes into fouling you or faking it. That kind of stuff's not cool. It's very soccerish. Let's just put it that way. But that's what's happened. The one bad thing about the Europeans infiltrating the NBA is they brought a lot of their antics to the game. And I'm not complaining because, man, the Europeans that are entering the game now are phenomenal. Back in the day when I first started watching the NBA, most of the Euros that came over were soft. And no one respected them. They just played a different brand of basketball, and they couldn't match up physically, and they would try their antics, and it didn't work. But now the European basketball players over the years have gotten so much better, and now we have, our best players. I mean, take your pick, Luka, Jokic, Giannis. They're all, foreign players who are great, terrific. It's just different now. The game has become so global. I would point to the reason why I think it's that way is I think the dream team from '92, the greatest team ever assembled. I think what they did, being so popular and having such mega stars like Magic, Bird, and Jordan on that team and traveling around the world, I think that they influenced so many young people to play the game of basketball. And then, think about how many youngsters that inspired in different countries to go out and play because they saw that team, the dream team. So that's my guess as to why we're seeing such a rise of, the game globally, where so many great European players are coming from different countries, not just European players, but elsewhere. It's pretty amazing. But come on, Shea, man, be better. Where are your balls at, buddy? Don't be going out there flopping around looking for calls, trying to trick the officials. All right, 503-248-0620. That is the telephone number if you want to call me. And you can reach out to me on social at Chad and Rip City. Chris Burkhart going to join me in studio coming up at 5. And coming up next, Celeste Trapp from Harem going to stop by for What Women Want. I think we're going to talk a little nutrition today. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Rip City Drive. It's been a minute, but Celeste Trapp from Harem is back in studio. It's great to see you.
Hi, Chad. It has been a minute.
I know.
Two weeks of minutes. How many minutes is that?
I don't know. It's a lot of minutes, but I'll tell you what was nice is to have like 2.5 weeks off from work. I haven't had that big a chunk of time away from work in quite some time, so I came back and I felt a little bit weird behind the microphone the first day, just trying to remember how to do radio. But man, I feel refreshed. It was so nice to be able to just get time away and relax.
Well, I wish you weren't sick for part of it, but I'm glad you got away. And it sounds like you had a great trip.
I did. I had a great trip, and I told you I set the personal record down at Disneyland, 30 rides.
30 rides in
30
one
rides.
day.
I hit the final ride because once I hit like 25, I was like, dude, I got to get to 30. I was like, I just made it a personal mission. And I rolled up on Haunted Mansion right when the clock ticked to midnight when the park was closing, but they were still letting people on for the final ride. Dude, I would have begged him. I'd be like,
Were
look,
you there
man, I've
until
been on a mission.
open to close?
Yeah, I got there.
Oh, my God.
I Ubered from downtown
I
LA.
can imagine.
I got there at 7 a.m. because I wanted to get there early to have a cup of coffee and be able to people watch. So I did. And then once the park opened at 8, then I had my plan and I was on my mission. And the weather was perfect. You know, the first couple of days when I was going to the Dodger games, the weather was good, but it was a bit overcast and a little bit cooler. But on that day when I went to Disney, it was like 80 and sunny. So it was like
Perfect.
blue skies and
Maybe
perfect.
a little too warm, but
It was a little bit warm,
yeah.
so I had to stay hydrated and I would pick certain rides to go indoors to get out of the sun.
Did you
from
have the
time to
fast
time.
pass?
I did. I there's no way I would
But
do
you
the
were
park
there
without
from
that.
8 until midnight?
Yeah, 16 hours.
30 rides?
Yeah, so I got my money's worth.
You did get your money's worth, no
because
doubt.
that place is not, shall we say, economical, but it was well worth it. It's a great place.
Yeah.
I was talking with someone about it today. Like it's even now in my older age, that's one of those places where like you would have to really try hard to be upset or pissed off at Disneyland. It's a good place, and it was a
Well,
level 2 day, so it wasn't like
depending
overcrowded.
depending on how long you're waiting in line.
Yeah,
Did you have you said the fast pass though? You
yeah,
didn't
the
have to wait
lightning
in line.
pass or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
But I didn't wait in any lines. I mean, the longest I waited in a line, I think, was like 15 minutes because I charted everything out and used the app, and then for some of the rides, I used the single rider line. And those are like one of the best kept secrets because you cruise right through.
Right.
Yeah, it was genius.
Yeah.
Had a great time. I went down to downtown Disney and took time to get some lunch. Got something to eat. So, yeah, I just made a day of it, and it was perfect. And the best part is when I left, because it was so late, the Uber ride back up to downtown where my hotel was at was like, I don't know, 30 minutes max. So
How
it
many
was very
steps
quick.
did you get? Did you look?
I did, yeah. I walked 14 miles that day.
Wow.
14 miles. And one day at Disneyland, and then the
Yeah.
whole trip, because I think I told you, but I like movement. So I was Ubering up to Dodger Stadium, and then I would walk back to downtown because the line to get a ride after the game, it's impossible. So I'm like, forget that. So I just walked down the canyon, crossed the freeway, and I'm right back into downtown. It's about a 35-minute walk back to the hotel. So I did that 4 days in a row. But anyways, the whole trip, 50 miles of walking in the 6 days I was down there.
So you lost weight on your vacation.
I did. Yeah, I actually did.
Not
yeah.
that you need to.
No, but yeah, and it was fun, man. I had a good time, so I enjoyed it, and I'm excited about today's topic because you reached out and said, "Hey, we should talk a little bit about nutrition," and that's like right up my alley. So
Yeah.
I'm all about it
Good
because
timing.
I would say what frustrates me the most about nutrition or exercise, learning how to live a healthier lifestyle. The biggest frustration I have as a country is that going through school, elementary school, middle school, high school, into college, there was no one that ever taught a class or worked with any of us in my entire time in school on how to eat properly, how to exercise properly. You got a little bit of this and a little bit of that, like in physical education class, but nothing that was really super helpful. And so it just frustrates me that we, as a country, put so many kids in a position where they have no idea how to take care of themselves. And the only reason why I know is because I'm fortunate to have the same workout partner for 32 years, and we've self-taught and learned and did a lot of research on our own over the course of time to where we've kind of figured some things out when it comes to exercise, nutrition, supplementation to be able to try and get a handle on that. But so many people don't know because no one gives them the tools to work with.
Right. And what's sad, Chad, is we were in school a long time ago.
Yeah.
And not much has changed.
Yes.
Right. They're still teaching the same thing and lack of teaching so my son's in 6th grade and what they have for school lunches, first of all, is terrible.
Yeah.
Overly processed food. I couldn't figure out why he wanted to stop taking his lunch in elementary school. And then I went there for a lunch and volunteered and saw it was because they had the sandwiches, the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on white bread with the crust cut. The crust, they're called Crustables.
Yeah.
And chocolate milk.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to grab those for lunch.
Of course he did.
So that's why he wanted to not take his healthy lunch with him.
Of course.
And so yeah, that's what they're offering. It's really sad.
Yeah.
So, and they're not learning from their parents because a lot of people just don't know. Ignorance is bliss, right? Until it's not bliss, and people get unhealthy, they get overweight, they have disease, they don't live a full, healthy life. So,
yeah, the biggest change over the
no.
last 50 to 60 years has just been, I think, I read a number the other day. I want to say the number, it's outrageous, but I think like 74% of the country, I think, is obese now.
Right.
That's an unacceptable number because your health is everything. Like we've talked about, like I live life with a purpose, and that's just to be able to have movement for as long as I live. To be able to move, to be able to enjoy the things that I want to enjoy.
Right. And, we're at age now, we have plenty of free movement, but, in another 10, 20, 30 years, people our age, or, a lot of people are not living the life they want to live because they're not able to get out of their chair.
Yeah.
They're not able to walk the golf course, or they're not able to, go to church even at that age because they don't want to walk to the pew.
Yeah.
And these are lifestyle choices that are made early on. And a lot of it's out of ignorance. It's what they were taught. It's what they weren't taught. And leading a life that caused them later down the road to really have a poor quality of life.
So what was your process to be able to learn as time has gone on how to take care of yourself?
I think what inspired me was in high school, I worked a job with a woman who had been out of college a little bit, and she told me about the freshman 15.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? I might gain 15 pounds in college. So that kind of like pre-warned me that this happens. And I was trying thinking, like, why does that happen? It must be like maybe the all you can eat in the dormitory cafeteria or something.
Or being away from home and not having the structure.
I'm not sure what does that. Maybe eating out more. So my first elective, my first year at U of O was a nutrition class. And that was a long time ago. There wasn't the apps and the technology we have now. So it was a very archaic way. But it was really understanding, what nutrition was of the food I was eating. And so we'd track it in these old, computer program. But it was really eye-opening. And from there, I think my journey later was just doing a lot of reading. I think the South Beach Diet, maybe like 20 some years ago, was a book I read and really clued me into sugars. And so ever since then, I'm a label reader on everything I buy because sugar is in everything and things you wouldn't even think of, like ketchup.
Yeah.
So really understanding what I was putting into my body became really important to me. And, it's something that, like I said, ignorance is bliss. People will think they're eating something healthy. Oh, it says it's non-fat. It must be good. Well, that years back, I'm sure you probably did that non-fat trend.
Yeah,
Was it like the late 80s or early 90s? So everything was like, I think I would have 7 grams of fat in a day, which is ridiculous, now that we know better. But it was buying all the things that were non-fat, but what they do instead of fat, what they have sugar. So now when some people still think they're doing something good for themselves, that they buy like the non-fat sour cream. It's like, don't buy that one. Buy, full fat or buy the 2%, but stay away from the non-fat items because they're generally not good for you.
I'm at a point now where my daily food intake, my fat, of the macronutrients, my fat's about 25 to 30% of the total caloric intake every day. And so that's, that changed with time. Instead of trying to eliminate all fat, you got to realize that there's certain fats you need. And so, so I came to that number that works for me is about 25 to 30% of my total caloric intake.
Now, have you gone through, do you use like an app like MyFitnessPal or something to track your macros? And
I don't. Because I started when I was younger, I write everything out by hand. And so I just I have a journal. Yeah. So I have a journal. A food journal.
Do you look up what the macros are on all the items?
Yeah. And then over time.
Chad, we need to get you with the times.
I know there are apps that do it, but I like the handwritten part of it just because it gives me something to focus on. But what's happened is that over time, because I'm dealing with a lot of the same foods, you start to.
Do you eat a lot of the same things every day?
I eat a lot of the same things every day, and so therefore I memorize what.
Okay, well, that makes it easier if you're not mixing it up. But.
In fact, pretty much I eat the same things almost every day. Now, that doesn't work for most people, but for me, it does, only because I've pretty much removed any type of emotional attachment to food. So I look at it more for purpose now.
Yeah,
and
for functionality. So you have to tell us what it is.
Well, usually with I eat the same breakfast. I'll have a snack in between, so I eat 6 meals a day. But
Nice.
usually for dinner, I'll usually take brown rice, vegetables, and then I rotate the meats. I'll do 4 ounces of meat, so I'll do fish or chicken. Sometimes I'll do red meat. I'm not opposed to red meat. I'm just not a big fan of it myself in terms of taste. But so it's usually 4 ounces of meat, vegetables, and then a cup of brown rice, and I just rotate the different type of meat that I want to have, or depending on what time of year it is, how I cook it.
Mm-hmm.
And then for breakfast, normally it's eggs, a couple of eggs, and a couple of egg whites, and I'll do some fruit with whole grain toast. That's usually my breakfast. And then for lunch, usually lately I've been doing like beef jerky, just because I'm busy working during the day, and so it's easy for me to eat something that's very portable like that. But I like that because it's a nice protein boost. So it's kind of how I do it every day. It's very
And do
simple.
you eat out much?
Not really, but if I do, I already know where to go and what I want to get.
Yeah.
There's a few restaurants that I really do like.
Yeah. Well, I don't eat like that, and I applaud you. That takes a lot of discipline. I love to cook, and I love food, and I love eating out. I have a sweet tooth. I love wine, all the things. So to me, it's about like moderation and balance.
Yeah.
But just making smart choices.
Yeah.
I don't eat out a ton. I love leftovers, luckily, and since I like to cook at home, I often will have leftovers with me for lunch. But just understanding what it is in every meal that I'm putting into my body, I think, is the most important thing. And doing those apps.
What app do you use? Like, what's a good app?
MyFitnessPal.
MyFitnessPal.
And I like that one because I pay. I'm a big payer of things, subscriptions. I'm a sucker
Join the
for them
club.
all.
We all are.
Yeah. So I like that one because I can save recipes in there, specific things. Whether it's a smoothie recipe, so I know exactly. I don't have to keep putting it in there and plugging it in individual items each time. Or if it's actual recipe I'm creating, I will put it in there. And I don't do that now. I do that as a reset. Just like if I start changing my eating patterns, I like to know what it actually is that I'm eating and the macros of that.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to lose weight, once you start counting and you start recognizing, oh, I'm going to have to log in that, whatever it is, 10 crackers, you start thinking more about what you're putting in your body because it's really easy to start sticking things in our mouth and not think about it.
Well, that's part of the reason why I like to have everything down and have a target number for each day, because that way it eliminates the extra snacking. That's so easy to do for all of us, right?
Yeah.
But one question I have for you as a mom, because I run into this issue with kids, like, will your son eat whatever you fix, or do you end up fixing something for yourself and for your son?
It's a very good question, Chad. I wish that I could say that, yes, he eats everything I eat. Not the case. I do eat a lot of salad. I don't do a no-carb diet by any means, but I definitely eat lower carbs. But I do like the idea of carb cycling. So some days are low carb, some medium, some are high. Like I said, I like food. So if I'm having something and I want to have the carbs, I want to eat the carbs. But the carb cycling, I think, is a really effective way to keep your metabolism going. But generally, if we're doing something with, like, say, spaghetti, I'll make him spaghetti. And I make it from scratch. I don't like to buy pre-made processed food.
Oh, very nice.
And it's really easy. It's not like, sometimes I'll actually roast tomatoes, but even if you just use a can of, like, organic tomato sauce and paste and tomatoes
Yeah,
with
it's
the
easy to put
spices and
together and
onions
make.
and garlic in it, it's really easy. But I would give him the pasta, and then I use something called, it's skinny noodles, it's the Kojak root. Have you heard of that?
I have.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah,
I
I've never
love
had
that.
it before, but I've heard it's delicious.
It's my new favorite thing this year. So it's a bag. It's 2 servings in a bag, but it's 9 calories. I had 2 different leftover containers. One was the real noodles my son used, and one was the Kojak noodle. And it comes in like a spaghetti, a angel hair, a fettuccine, and then like a orzo.
That's awesome.
And I had the 2 sauce, each had sauce, the same sauce. And I was like, I don't know which one's which.
Yeah.
Really, like, it was that close to the pasta for 9 calories and no carbs. So anyway, it's skinny noodles, and I have them at Fred Meyer. But so I don't feed him that because he wants, carbs. I'll let him have, cereal is kind of a treat.
Yeah. He's young and growing.
Yeah, and he's a typical kid though. He likes the stuff, the chicken tenders and mac and cheese and all the
Yeah.
things. And, I didn't eat. It's really hard for a kid to be eating super healthy.
No, and I
You
understand
got
that
to be a
too.
kid too. So
My
it's all
daughter's
in
the same way.
moderation.
She's starting to exercise and wants to be more healthy. So there are times where she's like, "Well, what are you having?" And I'll tell her, and she's like, "Well, I'll have some of that." So I don't want to force anything upon her like that. So if she wants it, then I'll make her something healthy, and I'm teaching her some different things. But there's times where she's like, "Well, I think I want mac and cheese," and she'll do that. So I've just gotten used to
Yeah.
like preparing, two different meals.
I'm just trying to educate him along the way and talk about the sugars and the choices I'm making and why, so that he can feel like he's in control of making his choices to an extent.
Yeah.
But we don't do like fast food. I mean, it's like a treat to go get fast food or something. So one reason why he loves road trips because he might get some fast food.
Yeah.
But just trying, he is in his mind watching sugars. He's on the swim team, so he puts out a lot of energy swimming. But he'll go and he'll have like a muffin or chips and all the crap. I say that all the junk, and he's using a lot of calories, so that's probably not the problem. But he is recognizing that okay, I don't want to have so much sugar today. I already had a cookie before swim, so maybe I won't have a treat
Well, that's
later.
great. You're giving him some, understanding and a little bit of education on that. So as he continues to get older, he can start to make, hopefully better choices and stuff like that, which I think is terrific. That's really good. And what I like about the, like the MyFitnessPal, the app that you're using, what I think is important, and you probably notice this too, is like when you're using an app or you have your workout partner, like having something that you can log and keep track of, there's a certain level of accountability there, which I think is what we all need. A little
Right.
bit of accountability to know what we're doing and to keep you in check and focused on what you want to accomplish.
Right. There's I'm in several Facebook groups, and I think that one thing that's important for people to just know is that it's possible for anyone to be in shape. I think some people go through life and they think, that's not for me. Like I don't have the body type or the genes to ever be in shape. And I would just encourage people to reframe their thinking on that. And one way to do that is going to some of the Facebook groups, and there's many, I'm sure, but a couple that I just appreciate are one's called the Macros, or just Macros, and one's V-Shred, which is a workout program. They have supplements and workout program that's kind of carb cycling, which is nice because a lot of people don't want to give up carbs, which is understandable.
Yeah.
And on there, you just see a ton of people's before and afters. And they're just normal people because it's like 80% food, really, when it comes down to it. And working out is going to help build muscle and help tone our bodies. But if you want to drop the weight, it's 80% the food you're putting in your body.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these people, what I've seen, and I'm not looking to lose weight like that, but I've just been on there and I just enjoy seeing people's experience as they've gone through this, as they've gone through losing weight and how it impacts their life. It's incredible how people, much different they can look in 6 months' time. And it reminds people that really anyone can do it. These are just normal people, all different ages, and they're changing their life
I agree.
by just becoming aware and educated.
And it's a beautiful thing because when I see that, and I've got a friend who's a life coach and works with ordinary people like you were talking about. And what's so neat is that when they go through a bit of a transformation, like that impacts how they feel and the energy that they have. It's 24 hours a day. How you feel when you wake up, how you feel when you get out of the shower and you look in the mirror, how you feel when you're lying down, when you're moving, like
Yes.
how much more energy you have at work when you're dealing with your kids. Like it impacts every aspect of your life in a positive way.
Totally. You feel good about yourself because
Yes.
you look good
Yeah.
and you feel lighter. And I went backpacking in New Zealand years back, and I had like I'm not a light packer, anything I do. I had like a 45-pound backpack for like a 3-day trip. And I realized like people will pack around 45 pounds easy.
Yeah.
45 pounds, I mean, really, it's probably like 2 pant sizes. Like some people are packing around way more than that. And just how hard that was for that 3 days made me think, gosh, people are like, they walk around like this every day.
Yeah. And putting that
And-
extra pressure on their body.
Right.
All right, hold that thought. Celeste Trapp is in studio. We'll come back and we'll continue the discussion. Talk a little bit about supplementation as well. You can reach out 503-248-0620. You can stream on the iHeartRadio app. Don't forget tomorrow, Oregon State Beavers taking on Florida State in the Corvallis Super Regional. Pregame at 2:30, first pitch at 3. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. All right, Celeste Trapp is in studio. Chris Burkhart's going to join me in studio here at 5 o'clock, and we'll focus in on the NBA Finals and the NBA Draft, which is coming up in just a few weeks, which is pretty cool. So Chris Burkhart coming up in studio at 5. Celeste is with me right now, and, we're talking about nutrition, which is such an important thing for all of us because, what we put in our bodies, how we fuel ourselves, and it's going to have such a dramatic impact as time continues to go on. You and I have both discovered that with our own life. But, the one thing that's important to me as well, and I know you do the same, it's, finding the right supplementation to go along with our food to make sure that we're getting the nutrients that we need because it's impossible based on, the foods that we have now, the way our soils have been depleted over time. It's basically impossible to get all the nutrients you need from food alone. And that's where supplementation comes into play.
Right. And there's so many. We were just talking. I was like laughing, like, don't even ask me what I'm taking because I have so many different things. And like I said, I'm a sucker for subscriptions and for buying supplements or reading some vitamin that, is great for one thing or another that I'm concerned about. And it's hard to know, though, which ones. And you're saying you're not sure of the 9 you take, which one or what exactly the impact is individually, but you're willing to take the risk that they're being positive in your overall health.
Yeah, my whole thought is about being consistent, right? So day to day, applying the same things, putting the same things in my body, and then over the course of time, seeing what type of impact that may have. The people I've spoken to that I respect and know a lot more than I do, I think at the very least, what you at least want to look at is finding a good multivitamin and just taking that every day because the multivitamin will help, replace some of the vitamins and minerals, the things that you're not getting in your foods. At least find a good multi and take that. I think that's a good place to start. And the good thing about multivitamins, you can find a good one, and it's very cost effective. So you can find a good multi that's, going to cost you pennies on the day throughout the course of the month, but something that can help, supply your body with some of the things that it's not getting from the food, which I think is important.
Right. And also, a lot of people don't get their blood work done to see where you might be lacking too.
Yeah.
So that would be a good starting point if you're not already taking something. Go to your doctor and get your blood work done.
Yeah, it's true. In fact, I did a couple of years ago. I never go to the doctor, but I thought, well, I should finally at least get a checkup and see how things are going. And, they did the blood work, and there were a couple of things that I was a little bit shy on that I wouldn't have known otherwise, right? So I'm able to go and just increase certain levels of different things and put me on the right track. It's just nice to have that information, that knowledge.
Right. And then you can also have like your gut biome checked also.
Yeah.
Different companies do that where you send in samples and really know how healthy you are in your gut because a lot of sickness comes from our gut.
Yeah,
and
it does.
A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, so I'm taking right now, I take a multivitamin. I've got a probiotic that I take every day, a digestive enzyme. I take an advanced brain health, which is supposed to help with brain function, fish oils. I take branched chain amino acids on workout days. I've got a liver support, which is to help metabolize fat, antioxidants to protect me from the free radicals. And then I've got this lean and cleanse, which helps keep the system regular. So those are all the different things I'm taking right now.
You're going to live a long, healthy life, Chad.
I
know
so.
it. I know it.
But you were talking about there's a couple, and I don't remember the names, but there were a couple of specific supplements you wanted to mention that are people are having success with right now.
Oh, they weren't necessarily supplements. No, I was going to talk about what a lot of people are using right now to lose weight. I'm sure everyone knows somebody who's using some type of semaglutide.
Yes.
Whether it's Ozempic or Wegovy or whatever.
Extremely popular right now.
Yes. And we've had a lot of clients. I was just took one of our stylists out to dinner last night for her anniversary and her 40th birthday. And she was telling me how many of her clients have been coming in looking like new people because they tell her that they're on the semaglutide. So it's becoming very, very common. I think at first I had some friends who started a couple years ago and people were like a little nervous to tell anybody what they were doing. I think now because so many people are doing it, people feel a little more comfortable to be open about it.
Yeah. What's been their
They love it.
They love
it lowers their food craving. They're satisfied. They're eating. I think a lot of people are worried they're going to get sick because there's some people that have bad reactions. And probably those people are people who are eating really bad food.
Yeah.
So if you're eating a lot of greasy, fried food, I think that doesn't sit well with it. But their experiences from when I've talked to men and women has been positive. They just eat less. they still, if they are drinkers, they still will have some drinks, but they don't have a craving for alcohol or food like they did before.
So that's the basic definition behind it, is that it just lowers your food cravings so that you can have better portion
Right.
control
So it
for
mimics the
food or beverage.
GLP-1 that we naturally create in our body. And that does all those things. Lower our cravings, makes us feel full longer, but that only lasts for fleeting, minutes. And so what this does, this semaglutide that's found in these other brands, is it extends that for like a week's time. So you take a shot like every week. It might vary for the different brands, but that's the overall idea. And it was, very expensive. But now the good news is there's so much on the market, and people are buying the generic semaglutide. So most of the people that I know taking it are taking generic, and they might be paying $300 a month. But I think that's going to even be going down in price. But think how much they're saving and not eating as much, right?
Yeah.
Some just say, I'll just be on this forever, because if people do stop taking it, they're going to probably go back to cravings like they did before.
Yeah.
And then slowly they'll put the weight back on. And of course, they could get back on it again if they wanted to. But
Now, is this something you get through a physician?
so, yeah, the Ozempic and the brands are through a physician. The Wegovy's, I think, more weight loss. So you probably have to be obese to be prescribed that. Maybe not. I'm not sure how strict doctors are on prescribing that. But in order for it to be covered by some insurances, but now the insurances, I've heard, are pulling back on it a little bit because too many people are trying to get on it, and it was fairly expensive. So the generic versions are what a lot of people are paying just out of pocket for.
All right, if you want to see more of our videos, you can go to YouTube. Here's What Women Want, also harem.com. And you know what's great, Celeste? Father's Day is right around the corner, and of course, it's always difficult to know what to get Dad. But at Harem, you guys have some gift cards and different ways to get Dad taken care of on Father's Day.
We do the straight razor shaves. I think you had one at our way back, didn't you?
I did. My first straight razor shave was at Harem, which was an amazing experience.
Yeah. So that's a great gift for Dad. We do the Ashiatsu massage. Have you had that?
No, I have not. But
That's
you
where
told me it's great.
Yeah, they walk on your back, and we have the bars on the ceiling, and so it's, instead of having like an elbow in your back to go really deep,
Yeah.
they're using their foot pressure, and it's really amazing. You would not think that they were feet on your back. So yeah, we have a lot of great packages that would be great for Dad or great for yourself to treat yourself if you are a dad.
So you can swing by or just go to harem.com.
Yeah, well, actually online now, we actually have a deal too online for $100 gift cards for $80. So you can do that for yourself or for a gift or
Yeah, take care of Pops.
whatever. Yeah.
We're just, less than 2 weeks away from Father's Day.
That's right.
Celeste Trapp in studio. Celeste, enjoy the sunshine.
Thank
Always
you,
good to
Chad.
see you.
See you next time.
All right, when we come back, Chris Burkhardt is in studio, and we'll focus in on the NBA Finals. Game 1 going to tip off at 5:30 from Oklahoma City. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. I know a couple of people that are using. All right, it's now 5 o'clock. What's up, my friends? NBA Finals going to tip off in 30 minutes on ABC from Oklahoma City. The Thunder, a 9.5-point favorite over the Pacers in Game 1. From the NFL, Aaron Rodgers has agreed to terms with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's expected to be at next week's minicamp. He'll be 41 when the season begins. And guess what? Pittsburgh's going to play their opener in New York against the Jets, Jets. Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson will be out for an indefinite period of time. He's got a right shoulder injury. Oregon State will take on Florida State tomorrow in the Corvallis Super Regional. First pitch at 3, pregame at 2:30 on 1190 KX and here on 620 Rip City Radio. Chris Burkhardt is going to join me in studio coming up next on the Rip City Drive. All right, I'm very happy. My man Chris Burkhardt just informed me that the new NCAA 26 will drop on July 10th.
Yeah, and then we get to retire NCAA 25. It's been one hell of a run and a decade in the making. It felt good. This new one looks pretty sick, though.
Yeah, you were sending me the videos online, and if it's as good as it looks, it's going to be amazing. I have not had this much fun playing a singular video game in my entire life. The football game's amazing. So good.
It is.
And Shacker made a good point that by playing the game and you've got the names of the players on the back, like I learned more about college football by playing the game because I learned more about different teams, their offense, the players they have, and you get to – it's cool to play the game and then look for certain guys on Saturday to see how they match up in real play compared to the game.
Well,
too.
now that you have the real players in there, yeah, it's kind of like fantasy football, right? Like fantasy football expanded everyone's knowledge of the NFL because you got to pay attention to more than just – your favorite team. You never had like any vested interest in how well some random receiver for the Titans did, but you do now, right? And so now when I play this game, I'm in this bum league with a bunch of Blazer fans. They're mad at me because I finally won the national championship. They can't handle me. So, shout out to those guys. But I'm playing as Houston, and now I found myself like caring about what the Houston Cougars would do on a Saturday. Like, what's going on?
You know, it's funny. I remember my first fantasy league I joined back in 93. This is before the internet and before apps, right? So we got together at some dude's house, and he had everything up on a big whiteboard, and everything was done manually. And if you wanted to make a roster change or if you wanted to get your starting lineup in, you'd have to make a phone call to the guy to get your starting lineup in because there was no computers.
Right.
Yeah, and if you had to go make a trade or you wanted to make a trade, you'd have to coordinate with the commissioner of the league to make it happen via telephone.
That is some dedication right there.
Can you imagine that? That's how we're at now. But now it's all done on the app.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be awake for your draft. It can just auto draft for you.
Yeah, but you felt like you felt like a Billy Bean or
yes.
a Joe Cronin. You're out. You had to hold on, babe. What? I got to call the commissioner real quick. You're so lame.
I know, man. Back in 93. Well, it's good to see a lot of different things to talk about. The NBA Finals are coming up here in 30 minutes, Game 1. The one thing I do know after watching the playoffs, and you and I have talked about this, but I've been rejuvenated with my basketball love in these playoffs because we've been treated to a lot of good series and many compelling basketball games. I just hope that continues in the NBA Finals. But after seeing all the games played, there's no doubt in my mind that right now the Pacers and the Thunder are the two best teams in the NBA. The Pacers, surprisingly really good in the postseason.
Yeah.
And then the Thunder have been dominant from regular season up until now. So we are getting the two best. I don't think it's going to be a ratings bonanza because it's Indiana and Oklahoma City, but I just want the series. I'm hoping for a 6 or 7 game series. But I like the way these two teams play.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And Oklahoma City, I think, has been the best team in the league all year long, and then most people penciled in OKC and Boston, right? And then you have the unfortunate injuries to Jason Tatum, and Boston kind of fell apart in the playoffs. But the Indiana Pacers are a team right now proving why you want to always strive for the playoffs because they are the hot team, right? Probably the hottest team in the NBA through the entire playoffs. We're just win after win playing together, man. And they've been fun. I thought the Knicks series, it was good. The Knicks kind of shot themselves in the foot a few too many times. And, it ended up Thibodeau ended up being the guy to fall on the sword when it was all said and done. But you got a hot team in Indiana, a team that's been good all year in OKC. And don't give me any of this. This will be OKC's first championship. None of this first since the team moved from Seattle nonsense, because none of that counts. So you got two teams in here who haven't won, which I think is always good for the NBA. It's so funny, Chad, because when there's a dynasty like Golden State, right? Everyone's like, oh my gosh, get something else in there. I'm tired of the same team winning all the time. And now that you've had, 3-4 years with different champions, people are like, oh man, it's kind of crazy that a different team's winning any year. Where's the dynasties? Like, you can never win with these fans. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't mind the dynasties. And obviously, I want to watch superstar players like everybody else. But I do like the intrigue year to year of not knowing who's going to win the championship, meaning there were several years there where we could pinpoint Cleveland, Golden State, or certain teams that you knew were going to be in the NBA Finals. Basically, you had 3 to 4 teams every year that were going to be in the finals, and now we're entering into basketball seasons, especially with the new CBA, where we don't really know where those teams are going to come from. If you would have told me before the year began that Indiana and Oklahoma City would be facing off in the finals, I'd be like, no way.
No. You've been absolutely crazy. And the CBA is going to force teams like Oklahoma City to end up moving some of those pieces. Good for them. They have all those draft picks, and they're going to be able to, recalibrate and retool. But if once it gets to, pay Chet time, pay Jalen time, they're going to kind of be in that situation, kind of like Denver is, right? Where you got all your money lumped into 3-4 players. And so CBA is going to force that team to get creative in the long run too.
There's no question. Now, what I'm trying to figure out with Indiana, obviously with Oklahoma City, Shea is the MVP. He just won the award, his first, and we know that he's a terrific player. I'm not even sure I put Tyrese Halliburton in the superstar category. Like, the Pacers are interesting to me because I think they have Tyrese Halliburton, who's a really, really good player, and he's surrounded by a bunch of good players. So you have like this true team that made it through the Eastern Conference to get to the NBA Finals, but I don't put Halliburton on that same level as Shea or some of the other superstars in the NBA. How do you view Halliburton?
Yeah, I think Halliburton's really good. I wouldn't put him in those same tiers either, but you have a team in Indiana that is built a little bit kind of like the old Detroit Piston team that we talk about a lot here, just because the connection to Chauncey Billups, right? Where Halliburton's a really good player, Pascal Siakam's a really good player. Are they megastars? No, but they play really, really good team basketball, and that's what's got him here. And even Oklahoma City, right? Like Shea, I think, is a megastar, but Chet's not, Jalen's not. They're just really, really good, and they play good team ball.
Well, one thing I now know after seeing Indiana and just taking a look at the landscape in the NBA with the new CBA and all the restrictions, I would not put in 40, 50 million bucks. I would not want to pay huge money to a one-dimensional player. And that's why I kind of like the makeup of the Trailblazers roster, because you have many more two-way players or multi-dimensional players instead of guys like Karl Anthony Towns or Jalen Brunson, who I love, but they're liabilities on defense, and you're investing a lot of money in guys who they play it one way, but they can't get it done on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, and I think that's something that Chauncey's tried to do forever, and this year it's really started to show itself. Obviously, when he was calling out Shea for not being good on the defensive end. Like, I don't care how many points you're scoring. I need to be good on both ends. You and I have talked, like, guys like Scoot, what I like about him is I don't think he gives up size or gets pushed around when he gets stuck on switches. Like, you're getting guys on this roster who can play on both sides, and you're seeing great success with talent and teams built like that right now. Obviously, Oklahoma City set that standard. Boston, good on both sides of the ball. The run that Milwaukee had, good on both sides of the ball. Like, you need that in this league right now.
You know what's so tough about the Thunder? If you look at the Pacers, like against the Knicks, it was very easy to look at the Knicks and know the attack points, right? When Brunson and Cat were on the floor, they went after those two guys on a regular basis.
Oh, they hunted.
They hunted them because they knew that those were the easy access points into the teeth of the defense, and they exposed those two guys. The problem is with the Thunder, they don't have weak defenders on the floor.
No.
They put out guys on the floor who can get it done on both ends, and so they put so much pressure on you because no matter who you're matched up on, they've got guys on the floor who can defend. And that's what fascinates me about their makeup, whether it's Jalen Williams or Shea or Lou Dort or Hartenstein and Chet. They've got guys on the floor at all times who can defend And there's just no real weakness that you can attack on that end of the floor when you're playing the Thunder.
No, and then when they run through their rotations, right? SGA is good on both sides. He's become a megastar offensively, still great defensively, right? But when they start going through their rotations, they got a guy in Lou Dort who's like 6'3", who they play at power forward half the time because he just plays so big and he does not get pushed around. They got Caruso, who's made his entire career on the defensive side of the ball.
Great player.
So they start going through their rotations, and it's just there's no weakness and nothing that you can say that's where we're going to attack.
How many games do you think it's going to go? It feels to me like a 5-game series Oklahoma City is going to win. I hope I'm wrong, but that's what it feels like right now.
I'm feeling 5 or 6. I don't think it goes 7. I think Oklahoma City wins it. I think I'm kind of rooting for Indy. It's easy to a team that's just been here forever, has gotten close. And at what point, Chad, and I brought this up on Core's side the other day, but at what point do we finally give Rick Carlisle his flowers? Like, this guy has been one of the best coaches in the NBA. But whenever you talk about the best coaches, no one talks about Rick Carlisle. But he starts with Detroit, puts together 50-win seasons, goes to Indy, puts together 50-win seasons. The wheels start to fall off, goes to Dallas, wins a championship in Dallas, right? And now he's in Indy, and they're phenomenal. So this guy's so good. Kind of want him to win one.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm pulling for him, too, is because he's got ties to the Trailblazers organization. Used to be an assistant here. I like him, and I like the way his teams play offense. I like the pace that they play. What I love about them is that even on made field goals, they're immediately looking to attack up floor and get the ball up floor. They got guys running out. They constantly put the pressure on you, and that was part of the issue the Knicks had, is that they just, with so many guys playing big minutes, the Pacers are able to run them into fatigue because of their constantly attacking, which is great. But what amazes me at that pace, they don't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do that, but they play free and they play with pace, but they protect the basketball. They're a smart team. So I just credit Rick Carlisle. And then just like he did in that run with Dallas when they won the championship, he's got the guys committed to playing defense.
And that's what you need. It's absolutely what you need. You got 2 teams in the finals right now who are good on that end of the ball. So it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out kind of finals. I think it's going to be the type of finals that the talking point, it's going to suck because you know what's going to happen. The big talking heads are going to tell you about how, it's going to be the worst-rated NBA finals since this year because it's 2 small market teams, yada, yada, yada. Yet I think for basketball heads, it's going to be one of the more entertaining finals just with the way these 2 teams play and the chemistry with which they're built.
But I think in some ways, doesn't it give places like Portland and Utah, some of the other smaller markets, hope? Because recently we had Milwaukee win a championship, and now you got Indiana and Oklahoma City in the finals, 2 small market teams. It can be done if you put together the right team and make good decisions. You can have a roster that can compete.
Absolutely. It's all about being built and then playing right. I mean, look at the dynasty San Antonio built, and that's a tiny market if you've never been to San Antonio. It's Portland but feels smaller. Like it's tiny.
I think Commissioner Silver's gotten what he desired. They wanted to set up an NBA where you'd have more parity, and it's working. I mean, we are having, how many different champions have we had now? Like, 7 straight years of a different champion?
It's been a run right now.
And what's funny is that, like, when Denver won it a couple of years ago, we thought they could go back to back.
Right.
And they didn't. Oklahoma City right now looks like a team that could win 2 or 3 championships. But like you said, if they alter their roster based on guys who are going to be up to paid and they don't want to, commit big dollars and limit themselves, then that could alter their direction or their trajectory right now.
Yeah.
But the NBA's done what they wanted.
It's gonna force some people's hands. People got to build. If anything, I think the smart GMs are running around. You got 2 teams who are not built on the 3 megastars that everyone says you have to have. Like I said, I think Oklahoma City has a good core 3, but like Chet and Jalen aren't megastars yet. This is not LeBron, D Wade, and Chris Bosh, right? It's not KG and Paul Pierce and Ray Allen, right? This is built a little bit different. And to your point, yeah, you got to go back to Golden State in 2017, 2018, last team we had repeat champs. But in that time, it has been Toronto, LA, Milwaukee, Golden State, Denver, Boston, and then a new team this year. So yeah, it's
been year number 7.
7 years with a new NBA champion.
Wow.
Which is unheard of. Because when you go through the histories, right, it's it's Detroit, and then it's the Lakers, and obviously the Boston dynasties of yesteryear, right? But then Chicago comes through, Houston wins 2 in a row, and then you start to see the Spurs dynasty, but the Lakers are still. It was the same team over and over. Not so much right now.
Yeah, when I started watching the NBA on a regular basis, it was the Lakers and Celtics and Sixers, and then it was the Pistons, and then it was the Chicago Bulls, and then it was the Chicago Bulls again after Houston won 2.
Yep.
And then that's when we saw the Lakers start to creep in with Shaq and Kobe, then San Antonio. It's been the same teams.
Yeah. Detroit gets back in there, who was a team who won in the 80s. So it's just like it was the same teams over and over.
And look at the teams that have won recently during that stretch. Milwaukee, Toronto, Denver, the unsuspecting teams that aren't normally there at the top have won championships.
Winning their first ever. Right. That's important. That's big time.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. Chris Burkhardt in studio. We'll continue to talk some ball, and we will focus in on the NBA draft as well. If you want to reach out, 503-248-0620. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. All right, Rip City Drive, Chris Burkhardt in studio. Telephone number 503-248-0620. If you want to jump on board, you can do so. Let's do that right now, actually. Let's go out to Rhodey, who is down at Spirit Mountain Casino. I was down there yesterday. Rhodey, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, good afternoon and evening, you guys.
Hey,
I'm
appreciate
just jacked up for this playoff series. I think the styles make fights, and I think the styles are going to really come to the top on this. I know the Pacers are going to look to push the ball up the court too.
Yeah, there's no question.
They got the talent to stay with them. And I'm looking at the spreads out here. This is your local degenerate gambler here, but it's up to 10.5 points now, Chad. And then the first half is 6.5 points. Thunder's favored. That's a lot of points.
All right. So did you take the Pacers?
This first game is going to be on Oklahoma City myself.
Yeah. So
what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think 10.5 is a big number. So are you thinking about taking the Pacers plus the points?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bet. Well, matter of fact, I'm doing the first half. It's 6.5 points. And I think the Pacers are going to get off to a really good start myself. I just got a feeling about it. And, so that's a lot of points. That's no respect at all for the Pacers, I think.
Yeah, no question about it. Well, dude, enjoy the game tonight. Go get your action in right now.
Oh, yeah. No, I just picked up my piece of paper, and I'm just getting ready. You going to make it out here to the finals this sometime?
Yeah, I'll be down there. So I'm sure I'll see you down there next week.
Okay, man. Have a good one. This should be a great game.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate it. There's Rhodey down at Spirit Mountain. Get ready for the finals. 10.5 points. That's a pretty that's a sizable number.
Yeah, it is, and it doesn't feel like this is the type of series that's going to have those blowouts. At least I hope it wouldn't.
But then the Thunder, I think, 3 wins in the playoffs so far of 30 or more points. First time that's ever happened.
They're filthy, man.
And their point differential throughout the regular season, the best in NBA history. All their numbers indicate championship.
All of them. But
I think he's right about the pace. Rhodey made a good point. I think the game flow or the gameplay could be fascinating because both teams can get up and down. And if the Pacers can make threes the way they have thus far in the playoffs, that's going to really be helpful. Rick Carlisle was talking about that a couple of days ago, that they've got to continue to limit turnovers and make shots. And if they can make shots and hit threes at a high enough level, they can put themselves at least in a position to be competitive. But those games, man, the Thunder, it's one of those teams, Chris, where, you can't just play good. You've got to play, terrific basketball, almost mistake-free basketball to be able to get over on them.
Yeah, you can't. You have to. 100%, man, because I think Oklahoma City's that weird team where when they make mistakes, they just can mask it so well and rebound from it quickly. So you got to play a mistake-free game. Really, you truly do. Because they're not going to make a lot, Oklahoma City. That is for sure.
All right. NBA draft coming up here in a few weeks. I want to get your take on what you think is going to happen. So the Blazers are going to be picking at number 11. And we also know that they have, multiple veterans that they could be looking to move. Do we agree that Jeremy Grant's probably priority number 1?
I would absolutely agree with that.
And that's because you need to clear out the space to where Tamani and Denny can start next to each other in the front court, which is important. What I'm, I was talking with Sean Heiken a couple of days ago. What I'm wondering is this going to be a situation where, Cronin and Schmitz and his staff, they have players identified that they will take that might be right around 11 that they would be comfortable taking. So it's one of those situations where you go in feeling not a ton of pressure, where you'll listen to deals, and if you get a deal that you like, you'll make the move. But if not, you'll still feel comfortable taking a player at 11. How do you think they'll approach draft night?
With the digging that we've been doing, I think that the gut still tells me Jeremy Grant's gone. I can see a situation where they may have to attach some sort of asset for that to happen. But I do think with the way this team is being built, that if there's a guy at 11 that they like and they have their list, that they're going to go after that. It'll be interesting. You got to pay attention to, the rest of the workouts and who they bring in. They haven't been bringing in a lot of guys who are projected to go in that range just yet, but that doesn't mean anything, right? I mean, think about when the team drafted Zach Collins. They didn't even bring him in for a workout, right? And there he was, and they took him. So, and, also keep in mind, too, you're seeing a lot of teams or guys they're bringing in, they're like, oh, that's a guy who's projected to go undrafted or late second round or whatever. Well, now Portland does have the fortunate place to be, and that is they have a G League team they have to fill out too at the end of the day when it's all said and done. But yeah, you got to pay attention to those workouts. But I think if the draft is there, and the draft is supposed to be deep, if there's that guy there that fits that mold, he's your 6'7" wing who can play on both sides, and you go refine his shot, but he's a good defender, that's the type of guy that they want. I think they wouldn't pass on that.
All right, do you think that they'll have to attach an asset to Jeremy to move him?
At this point, I do. Because Jeremy Grant's going to make 35 mil or something crazy like that. I got to look at the exact number. But if he's on a competitive team, which I think he can be good on a competitive team, but he's their fourth option is probably where his ideal spot is. Is that the kind of money you want to put into a guy who's giving you an average of maybe 15 points a night as your fourth option? No, it's not. So you're going to have some incentive to get a team to want to take that. And I think that's where Portland has to maybe attach maybe that pick or any other assets they can wheel together. I don't think it's just Jeremy's gone and you wipe your hands.
When I asked Sean about it, he thought that, it's possible they could attach an asset to Grant. But the one thing he did say is that he doesn't think they'll do a move that would be a net negative, right?
Yeah.
They might do something that's a net neutral. Obviously, you want to try and get good value on the moves you make, but he doesn't think that they would do something that would be a net negative. Meaning, if they're going to attach a pick to Grant to move him, they would have to be getting some type of young player back in return.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's similar to what happened with Malcolm Brogdon, right? You had to attach the pick there. Everyone didn't know why, but you got a guy in return who has been absolutely perfect for you.
That's what I want to know. Who's the Denny Avdia of this season that the Blazers have their eye on?
Yeah, and Joe Cronin, what he say at the trade deadline? We had a lot of conversations that put the wheels in motions for deals that could happen at a later date. So who is that guy? Because there's a lot of talking that happens at a trade deadline that, you might be able to wheel and deal. I've mentioned this before, like a team like Orlando, who I think would be a really good fit for someone like Anthony Simons. Their books change on them overnight because all of a sudden the contract extensions for Franz Wagner and Suggs kick into gear. Jonathan Isaac's contract kicks into gear, but he gets a de-escalating contract that loses $10 million. So their books kind of flip-flop, and now they have to approach their trade season completely different, being at the apron. So there's a lot of incentive sometimes to wait until the next season when things reset a little bit.
What do you think is the number one need on the roster? Because if you look around like at different positions, at guard, at forward, at center, like they're not lacking, right? But what do you think is the number one need going into the offseason?
I think if I'm the Blazers team with the way they're building right now, I think the number one need, especially if you're going through the draft, is depth and a specific type of player, and that's that player that can play both the 3 and the 4 and give you really, really good minutes right there. Say that you get Jeremy Grant's just off this roster, you get nothing in return, he's just gone, and you're starting Denny Avdia at that spot. I mean, who's your backup 4? I mean, you can go play Jabari Walker or however, but there's a big gap there, right? So you have to have that guy. Same with your 3. You got guys like Matisse Thybulle who can come in, really good defensively, gives you some versatility, but you need a guy who can score too and give you some buckets and play multiple positions. I think that is the biggest need is that. And then if you're not looking for a archetype body-wise, I think shooting is going to be, because if you go into this season right now, again, Matisse Thybulle, great defender, Tamani, great defender. I need someone that I can just give the ball, and his main job is just sit in the corner and huck it up and just get me some three-pointers.
That's good. Yeah, shooting would be nice. What about backup guard depth, like a point guard?
See, I think that's interesting right now because right now they have that. I think everyone is, us included, we've both talked about it, but I think there's a lot of assumptions being made about Anthony Simons. And I think with the more you dig and the more you talk, that there's a lot of insiders, Sean Highkin being one of them, that wouldn't be surprised if he gets an extension and he's not moved because they still haven't seen what they need to see out of Scoot yet. And I remember on draft night when I talked to Joe Cronin, he laughed. He's like, exactly. I was like, you just drafted a guy at 3 who you would hope works out, but if he doesn't work out, you got a pretty darn good backup point guard. He's like, yeah, we do. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know if they're completely sold on that yet. So that's where it gets interesting because I think you need to know what direction you're going in, whether it's Ant or whether it's Scoot, before you truly attack getting
Do you
point
think
guard
they know
depth.
the answer to that question?
I don't know if they do, Chad.
What about with Shaden Sharp? Do you think that they're confident that he can be the shooting guard of the future?
I think that's another good question because I have said this constantly that I think they need him to be the best player on the team. I think the way that if this team comes and he's all of a sudden a Tracy McGrady or a Kobe and he's getting 25 points a night every single night, and when he puts up 20, you feel like it's a disappointment. That's exactly where you want to be. He just needs to take that next step. We've seen baby steps, and I think every year he's taken one or two, but we want to see that giant leap, right? We just haven't seen that yet. Are they confident in that? That's a great question. I mean, they weren't confident enough in him to play defense. They had to pull him out of the lineup. There's a lot of unanswered questions.
Would
there.
that surprise you if they gave Ann an extension?
I don't know if it would. I honestly don't know if it would. I mean,
would it make sense to do that? Because they have to make a decision on Shaden Sharp, who will be extension eligible. Like, they've got decisions to make. The good thing about Ant right now is that if you don't sign him to the extension, you don't have to move him during the summer. You can bring him back.
No, you can bring him back. And I think the benefit of keeping Ant right now is you have two other guys that you want to make that jump and grab the brass ring, so to speak, and be that guy. But if Shea doesn't do that, then you just plug Ant in at the 2 and you got your guy. If Scoot doesn't make that jump, then you can just wipe your hands of it and Ant's your point guard because of his versatility and ability to play both those spots. I'm not saying it's an enviable position to be in because I don't like it. I say make a decision and just go that way and then start building rather than trying to decide what you have, because you've been doing this rebuild now for about 4 years and you should know what you have and be firmly rooted in moving forward.
I agree. So ideally, moving Ant and Grant this summer would be
I think that's
perfect.
ideal. I think that's ideal. I like Ant. I really like Ant. I think there's teams that like him. I think you saw during the playoffs Orlando needs shooting, and it's easy to make the connection because he's from that part of the country. But you know what? It just stylistically how he could fit into that lineup, I think he's a perfect fit there.
And then what about bringing Ayton back on the expiring contract with the idea that he can play next to Klingon, and you've got someone to eat up minutes, and then maybe around the trade deadline you could look to move Ayton on the expiring deal.
I don't think Ayton's going anywhere. I think.
But they're not going to re-sign him, right?
I think you can. The smart move is you understand what his market value is. His market value is not going to be that max deal that he's riding.
Yeah,
right?
35 to 40.
It's probably going to be maybe 20 or whatever it is. I don't know the exact number, but it's going to be a price cut. That's for sure. I think you ride with him because you need that depth. As much as Blazer fans want it to work, it's unfortunate, and you don't like saying it, but you can't trust Robert Williams to stay on the court, right? And now that's a career history of that. So you can't rely on that depth. You need big man depth. I think there's a big chance that you go into this season, DeAndre Ayton's your starting center. I think all things considered, he's still better, more well-rounded than Donovan Clingan. So you need that depth. Will Donovan Clingan surpass him? Very well could happen. But if there's intrigue at the deadline and a team wants him, take him. If there's not, you just ride it out. That contract expires. Worst case scenario, okay, we get 30 mil off the books, but I think there's a way to re-sign him too, maybe, and bring him and be that guy who just gives you that center depth. He doesn't have to be your starter, whatever it is. I just don't know if getting rid of him is just the true answer right now.
I agree. You've got to have someone to play with Klingan because Klingan can't play all the minutes at center.
No, he can't, and you need that versatility.
But they probably won't be able to move Robert Williams until you can at least showcase that he's healthy, right?
Yeah, that's the tough part.
It's too bad because I really like Rob Will. I just hate seeing him having to battle injury after injury after injury. It sucks.
He had a stretch there when he came back, and he looked like the team's best center for a minute.
Yeah, and he even talked about how he had confidence because he had the bounce back in his step and was feeling healthy.
And for as good as Donovan Clingan was, like there's a gap between DC and Robert Williams when it comes to their defensive prowess. Like what Klingan does right at the rim right now is phenomenal, but Robert Williams' ability to get out a little bit and give people a fit with his size and his athleticism, it's different. It's just the ability to stay on the court is not there, and that's the unfortunate part.
I forgot to ask you, who would you have cast your vote for MVP this year?
I hate the idea that people get voter fatigue. I think you got to vote for the guy who's the best player. And I think if you take Shea Gilgeous-Alexander off of this Oklahoma City team, yeah, it's a product of the team being built well, but they're still good. I mean, Jalen's great, Chet's great. They got dogs and a good coach.
But you take Jokic off the Nuggets.
You take Jokic off of Denver.
Garbage.
They're terrible. And as much as I like SGA, I've seen his praises here multiple times. Jokic does things on that court that I've never seen. And he does it so, like just without a care. Like, he looks like he's bored. And next thing you know, he throws some behind-the-back touch pass that just finds the perfect spot, and it's a points for Denver. I think he's the best player in the league. I think he was the MVP.
All right, Chris Burkhardt in studio. Shacker, have you checked the drive time to your house recently? Is it down from the hour 15?
About a 90-minute drive.
That's so terrible.
Bro, no thanks.
90 minutes. And think about it. It's not even that far from here.
No, I mean, it's an extra hour of traffic.
All right, great. Let's check and see what's going on up towards Vancouver.
It's an hour and 3 minutes to my house right now, and it's usually a half hour from the studio.
Hour 17. We're all screwed.
You know traffic's bad when you pop up your address on the map and it just suggests taking the back roads in the way that you never go. Like, it just basically, even Google Maps is like, don't get on the freeway.
Yeah, there's a shade of red on this app that I've never seen before. It's so busy out there.
That is insanity.
Dude, all the way up to the Couve, all the way up to my house, it's basically nothing but a red line. I've never seen that before. An hour and 17 minutes. That's awful.
When I was at NBC, right, in the studio, you obviously did there, the radio show right there downtown. I lived in Vancouver at that time too. And so if I had to leave after your show or leave at 5 o'clock, it took an hour and 12 minutes to get across that darn bridge. But then when you do a Blazer game, as you know, leaving at midnight takes about 15 minutes to get home in Vancouver. Traffic, man, it's brutal.
It's brutal. Miranda has chimed in. Dear Skunk Vomit, good afternoon, Mr. Doing. The Blazers should secure their future by bringing back Mario Hezonja. You heard it here first. My favorite Mario Hezonja moment was down in L.A. on Kobe night when Dame was having like that ridiculously good night. And Hezonja checked back into the game. And I remember Dame walking over to him. And I couldn't hear exactly what he said, but he was basically like, look, man, I'm trying to do something special here. Don't F it up. I love that.
I'll tell you this much. No matter what happens this offseason, at least we're not going to be sold by Joe Cronin that Mario Hezonja, Anthony Tolliver, and the ghost of Pau Gasol are the answer to your woes.
Dude, when Rodney Hood got hurt, I was like, son of a gun. That was so brutal. All right, we'll come back. Chris Burkhardt in studio. Michael Shacker's here. You got the Rip City Drive? All right, tomorrow, the Oregon State Beavers will take on Florida State in the Corvallis Super Regional. That first pitch is going to be at 3, and pregame is going to start at 2:30. We'll have it on 1190 KX, your home of the Beavs, and here on 620 Rip City Radio. Chris and I developed a plan during the break. The traffic is so bad going back to the Couve. I need to stop at Target and do some shopping. So I just found a route that's 13 minutes on the back roads over to Washington Square. So I'm going to go and I'm going to take my time slowly walking through all the aisles, do my shopping, and then I'll head back home. It's not worth it, man. I'm not going to sit in the freeway for an hour.
No, you gotta take care of business that way. And
An hour and 17 minutes.
Yeah, it's brutal. Like I said, when you pop up the map and it's telling you to take back roads, you know you're hurting. I got to spend time driving tomorrow anyway. I got to go to Eugene for some state championships, last weekend of them.
What, track and field or softball?
We got baseball and softball this weekend down in Eugene.
That's awesome. I was also very happy to hear when I was on vacation that you and I share the same love. Pirates of the Caribbean is an elite ride.
It's elite on multiple levels. A, it's just the ride itself is good. B, it's the longest ride, so you get a little bit of reprieve from that hot LA sun and that
nice and cool
15 minutes, right? It's just there's just a beauty about it. You're walking through a little bayou at the beginning, little crickets going off. You see people eating at the Blue Bayou, which I've ate there once. Amazing.
I've eaten there once too, and I tried to get reservations this time around, but it's packed.
Impossible now. It's hard. Because you can get your reservations like 6 months out, which is the furthest you can book a ticket, and you have to do it then or you're done. But that's such a cool concept, like a restaurant inside the ride. And Pirates is the best. My rule when I go to Disney, because I only go there a few times, is the first ride I ride is Pirates. And then it doesn't matter how many days I'm there, but I always end it. The very last ride of the night is Pirates of the Caribbean.
It's an elite ride. So you're also telling me, too, that you, by mistake, you discovered that a good place to watch fireworks is over in Star Wars Land?
Oh, Star Wars Land, because everyone packs up Main Street, right? Because it's just so picturesque because you get the fireworks coming out over the castle, and it is kind of cool. It is pretty cool. But if you're stuck over there in Star Wars Land, then you're right there, right next to the Millennium Falcon, and the mountain's right behind it. And then all of a sudden, all of the fireworks are coming up over it. And then every single one is just lighting up the entire area. Oh, my gosh. It just adds to the ambiance because then you got all the little kids with their lightsabers, right? And you feel like those could be like the missiles and guns going off from all your X-Wings and TIE fighters. That's the spot to watch the fireworks. Let me tell you what.
I just wish that little Chad could have experienced Star Wars Land. Like at 7 years old, if I was walking through, my mind would have been blown. You can buy actual lightsabers.
Right.
They got in the case. The whole concept is pretty amazing. Right now, first quarter, midway through in Oklahoma City, Thunder on top of the Pacers, 12-10.
How about the technology they have too? Yes, there's one of the cast members right there controlling it, but they got the droids going around and stuff. You're on set, you're on Tatooine.
I met Mando and Grogu.
There you go.
I walked up to him and I said, "Mando, may I have a picture with you?" He goes, "Yes." And then when we were done, I said, "Thank you, you're the best. This is the way." That's all he said. And he went about his business. And I've seen Boba Fett. They're all in character too. Boba Fett, a kid rolled up on him and asked for an autograph, and he goes, "No."
Yeah.
He kept walking. He was in character.
It's best when they're in character. I think we ran into Cruella DeVille in character, and she was razzing me "Oh, you let these things off their leash." I was oh, my daughter, she said we wear leashes. No, they're in character. It's pretty fun, man. I love Disney.
Well, especially when you go on Rise of the Resistance and you've got the Imperial officers being mean to you because you're prisoners. I love that.
It's that that's got to be high up there on the cast member list. That's the job you want.
Oh yeah.
Just give it to people. And
you said you got what did you convince your daughter of?
My daughter was convinced on Rise of the Resistance when you take the first little ship and the camera, the screens make it look like you're flying up. She was convinced that we left Disneyland. And a little bit later, she'd see the lights in the sky at night. That's one of the ships that left. I know we left because when we came out at a different spot of Star Wars Land because we landed in a different spot. She was convinced that we actually left Disneyland for that ride.
That's why I love youngsters because their imagination runs wild, which is great.
Yes.
And it's a great place to do it. Yeah, it's so much fun. So good. Chris has chimed in. She says Pirates is the best, and she also said Fantasyland, another good place to watch the fireworks.
Yeah. You ever see that video on YouTube where it's back when they were pushing one of the Pirates movies and Johnny Depp showed up to the Pirates of the Caribbean ride,
Mhm.
dressed as Captain Jack Sparrow. Like, oh,
I was there that day with my son.
like, could you? Oh, well, hey, lucky, but just could you imagine?
No, I didn't. I wasn't. He was not inside the ride when I was there, but he was up above waving to everyone.
Oh my gosh, how cool! How cool,
dude! Like, because at the very end of the ride where you look over to your left and he's like sitting there.
Yeah.
Can you imagine like the real Johnny Depp sitting there just being Captain Jack?
That would be wild. That would be wild.
But you're right. It's nice to have a place where you can cool off for 15 minutes when it's hot out there.
That's what it is. And like for some reason, like even when it's long, I mean, I skip it only when the queue is like all the way around New Orleans Square. But if you can get in there pretty quick, the line goes quick. That's a good one, man.
All right, we got Hops baseball coming up here in about 20 minutes. They're going to take on Spokane tomorrow. Don't forget Super Regional down in Corvallis. Oregon State Beavers taking on Florida State. Pregame at 2:30. First pitch at 3 here on